Althea, Mom, Grandma Chisholm, and we're going to record her life story. And we'll get started. So tell us, give us the basic facts. Start at the beginning, please.
Oh,
I know it started in 1932.
Yeah, August 27th,
Uh-huh.
and I was born at home, and my parents were both 41 years old, and it was on a Saturday around noontime, and they couldn't find a doctor. The doctor wasn't in, and the midwife, they couldn't find a midwife that usually helped mom deliver the kids. We were all born at home. I was the ninth of 10, and so my father delivered me.
Really?
It's no big deal, right?
That is not normal.
And my sister, Biba, she was second oldest. She was almost 16. She bathed me and everything, took care of me. And the doctor just came out later, and look, Daddy tied the cord and everything. He did the whole.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me about your parents. What was your mom's maiden name?
Her name is Frances Cornelia Evans.
She's named Frances too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And Daddy was Elmer Francis Saltzman.
Oh, they both had the same name.
Uh-huh, yeah.
What do you know about your mom's background and where she came from, stuff like that?
Well, she came from around Elwood City, and not too far from where we lived there in Pennsylvania. See, Daddy came from New York, so I didn't know any of his family.
So y'all never met his family when you were young?
Well, his mother would come visit, but she died when I was just a baby. I think 2 or 3, yeah. My older sisters and brothers more, but I never knew him.
What city was he from in New York?
He was from upstate New York, Rome, New York, I think.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
And he left when he was a kid, really, right?
Well, yeah, he left home when he was like after 7th grade and went to work on the Erie Canal.
Really?
Yeah. And Gil may know more. He's told Gil last time about it. I think he worked. He took care of the horses. They walked the horses up and down the canal, and he took care of the horses.
Really?
He never went back home. He was just a young boy, 14 or something like that.
Just took off.
Uh-huh.
And he was born in 18...
91. They were both born in 1891.
Huh. And okay, so you were born in 19...
32.
Right. Okay. That was 41.
Uh-huh.
What was the? And how many brothers and sisters did your dad have?
Well, see, I think there were 7. I didn't know much about them.
Really?
Yeah, another uncle of mine, Frank, he went to the Navy and never came back. They never heard from him again.
In World War One?
World War I, uh-huh. And I just don't know. I remember there was Aunt Ella and Lydia and Warren and Joe and Daddy. I think there was 7.
Really?
And later on, when I was in high school, I got to meet my Uncle Warren. He came to visit, and he looked just like Daddy. His head, but he's kind of a short, stalker kind of guy.
Yeah.
And him and his wife and my cousin came to visit us when I was in high school. And then my Aunt Ella came to my mother's funeral. So that's the only 2 I remember.
Really? So what about your mom's family?
Well, they were the Evans. They lived around there. We visited all back and forth. We had a big family, the Evans family reunion every year, and
Do they still have one up there?
well, we had it when Travis was 2. Alice and Travis, I went up to it.
Oh, that's 14 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, they're just about all dead now. So,
Is that right?
Yeah.
So how many brothers and sisters did your mom have?
Oh, she had like 13, I think. There was 13 in the family.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
Yeah.
Where was she on the...
She was one of the older ones.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So they still got a lot around. I mean, kids, well, yeah, no, that's not true. Some of those may still be alive, though, if she was older.
Yeah, they have, I have some cousins my age still.
None of the adults are around, I guess.
No, her youngest brother, Jim, died when I was up there 14 years ago. He was still alive.
Is that right?
Yeah. And my uncle Jess, he was married to Aunt Finey. She was a baby of the family. So and so those 2 were still alive because they were the youngest ones of the family.
So, how did your parents meet? Do you know that story?
I think my mother was working because she said Daddy was handsome, and she said she met him and he was the best looking man she ever saw. Because it was kind of unusual for the time. She came from a big family. She lived in a boarding house also. And I'm not sure how she met him.
Really?
But she worked in a glass factory. She did etching on glasses. In fact, I have a glass at home where she wrote her name. She did etching with, I don't know how they did it then.
Really? A glass, like, you mean drinking glasses?
Yeah, it has her name on it, Frances Cornelia Evans.
And she did that at work one day?
Yeah, she made one for herself, but that's what she worked in a glass factory and etched
Really?
designs and stuff on glasses and drinking glasses.
I didn't know you had that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. What, so they moved to, out in the country?
Well, they lived in Mahoning County in Newcastle first.
Oh, is that right?
Uh-huh. And they had the first 4 girls, and see, there was 5 girls and 3 boys, and then my little sister and I.
Okay, give me the names again.
Virginia, Mary Elizabeth,
Which is Bibbits.
Dorothy, Frances, Harriet, Elmer, Joe, Bill, me, and Sally.
Oh, okay. And so then they moved out to the country?
Yeah, they lived in town, and Mom liked it in there. She didn't want to move out of the country. The little girls were taking piano lessons and violin lessons.
Really?
Yeah, it was, see, we had the violin out the house for when I was a kid. We'd play on it every day. And she wanted to stay in town. But Daddy wanted to move out in the country, so she moved out in the country.
Did he serve in World War I?
No, he had an injury, his arm. He had an injury to one of his arms.
Really? So he couldn't, because he would have been about the right age, wouldn't he?
Right.
Hmm.
But see, he was German, and his mom told me that his brother said one time they'd take him out and shoot him before he would go fight against the Germans.
Really?
So I don't know how Daddy felt about that, but he didn't have to go. He had
I guess against Salzman, that would
yeah, right.
that makes sense, German. Okay, anyway, so then she didn't want to move out there.
No, and she tells stories about how she'd be afraid. She was out there with just these little girls. She the first 4, 5 girls.
Right.
And the house they moved in was part of the Whiting. You know, the Whiting family that was there for the Revolutionary War. And there's brothers who lived out there. They were single, and I think they sold moonshine. And so people would come late at night and beat on the door and everything.
Really?
And Daddy a lot of times would work 3 to 11, 11 to 7. And she'd
Right.
be out there alone with those little girls. They, you know.
5 of them.
Uh-huh.
That would be scary.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a crack in the back door. It was always there. She said somebody came one night, kicked the door in because she wouldn't open it. And they would come try to buy the moonshine whiskey.
Huh. And the Whitings, that's the one that they live up the hill, right?
Yeah.
Behind the house there?
Yeah, Bertie.
Above, yeah, Bertie.
Yeah, Bibbitt's married into that family.
Oh, okay, that's right. John was
Yeah,
related
John's father's mother was a Whiting.
Oh, okay.
They were his husbands.
Yeah, John Stevens.
Uh-huh.
So you were born, you came along, so they lived there for how long before you were born?
I think they started with, gosh, I think it was maybe Elmer.
Oh, when the first one they had out there?
Uh-huh.
And what does your dad do for a living?
He worked in the railroad.
Which one?
Baltimore, Ohio. Yeah, B&O.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
And what did he do?
Well, he did all kinds of things. He would, I remember one time when I was young, he worked as a conductor, and he would leave at night. You know, there's a conductor that takes tickets and stuff. There's also a conductor that works, you know, down in the rail yards.
Right.
Yeah, there's 2 different. And he did work for a while. He didn't like it, where he'd ride on the trains and take tickets and everything, and then...
Oh, he did that, huh?
Yeah, he did that for a while, too.
Huh.
But he just worked on what they would call the junction, and he was, they had train masters, and he did all kind of...
Switching cars and doing all that stuff?
Switchman, yeah, he did everything.
Oh, okay. So he never was like an engineer. I mean, he worked in the yard there.
Yeah, he worked right, yeah.
So he didn't travel. I mean, he was always running.
No, the only time he traveled was when he was doing that. For a short time, he was a conductor.
Oh, okay.
Archery, yeah.
Okay. So what are your earliest memories of childhood?
Oh, I love my childhood.
Really?
Yeah, we went to a one-room school, and all my older sisters were there. Most of them were married, and they had children, and...
So they were living around you?
Yeah, they lived around us, uh-huh. In fact, my one sister with 6 children, Vivian, she lived right up the road from us.
Right.
And so she'd come down, and Daddy made a path through the woods. There's a woods between our house and hers. And she walked down with her kids, because they were about the same age as her oldest son was 9 months younger than my little sister.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So we were all about the same age.
Huh.
And she'd come down and bring her kids, and I loved, she'd have a baby all the time, and I'd walk back home with her and carry her baby with her. And we kept those kids, and we picked blackberries together.
Huh.
We just, yeah, we did, it was really a fun time.
So y'all would, I mean, would y'all walk to school?
Yes, uh-huh.
So I mean, how many of y'all, which group of kids would, I mean, you were hanging out with the boys really, right? I mean, you were about their age?
Yeah, it was like four of us raised together, Joe, Bill, Sally, and I. Because Elmer was 8 years older, and when I was 10, he went in the Army.
Right, he was 18 then.
Yeah, he was 18. He was drafted during World War II, got it around that time. And so it was just the four of us.
Huh. So what was the school like?
It was just a one-room school. We had Miss Fisher. The boys called her Fat Fisher. We were all one room, eight grades.
Oh, first to eighth grade?
First to eighth,
Huh.
Yeah, and we had called cloakrooms.
Really?
And in the corner was a big furnace, a big coal furnace. And the boys would, I think they got paid maybe. They'd take turns going early in the morning and starting the furnace before school started.
Really?
Uh-huh.
To heat it up, huh?
Heat it up, yeah. I left skin on it. One time when I was little, I fell against the furnace and hit my hand against it. It was so hot. And the skin stuck to it. It stayed on that furnace all the time. And right off was the coal place where they kept the coal was right there.
Right.
Yeah, a door, a room in there would be full of coal, and they would shovel that coal into the furnace.
Oh, God.
But it had windows on two sides, like you see pictures of those old schoolhouses.
Right.
And they were always decorated. In the spring, yeah, in the spring we'd make cutouts of flowers, and then we'd have pumpkins and Christmas trees and all that stuff.
It's a great place to go to school.
It was. I still dream of it at times.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I loved that school.
The teacher, you had the same teacher for all 8 grades?
Uh-huh.
Huh. What, who were your friends at school?
Oh, Casey Siemens. She stayed my friend all through high school, and then she was older, and when I got out of high school, she was already living in town in an apartment.
Was she related to John?
Yeah, she was John's niece.
Oh, okay.
So she was my best friend, and her uncle was my brother-in-law. We were all kind of intermarried.
Right.
See, her uncle John
Right.
was
right,
married
to business. Right,
yeah, so her uncle was my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay. So what,
We had a lot of, yeah, we were just all the same ones all together. I mean, we just went all through school together. There was Casey and Donnie and Mary and Jimmy, you know, four in that family.
right.
And then, and Elmer went to school. Well, I was in the first and second grade, and he had to pass an 8th grade test to get out. You couldn't go on to high school unless you passed this test.
Right.
And it took them 3 times during your 8th grade. And the first 2 tests you took right there at the school. But the superintendent of schools would come out during those tests and walk around and watch what was going on. The 3rd test, they took us all to a independent school.
Oh, I get you.
And so, and they gave you books to read. You had to learn so many poems. I still know those. Read so many books.
You still know the poems?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And like the Village Blacksmith and If.
Well, recite one.
Yeah, right. If you could keep your head when all about you is losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you could trust yourself when all men doubt you and make allowance for their doubting too. If you can dream and not make dreams your master. If you can think and not make thoughts your aim. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those 2 impostors just the same. That's as much as I know that.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
You learned that in 8th grade?
Yeah.
Of course, y'all heard it every year.
Yeah, we heard it every year, and we had to stand up in front and say them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
But my brother Elmer and his friend Louis Ternosky, who's Chin, my brother-in-law's brother, well, they hadn't taken those 8th grade, those tests about 2 years. And so they're here, they were big guys, like about 16 or something.
Well, they did 8th grade several times.
Yeah, they'd been at 8th grade. See, he was 8 years older than I was. He was still in that school down there when I started, because he'd taken the test many times. And it was real nice weather. The windows were open, and the teacher said something to them, and those boys said something about, something about Fat Fisher, and they both jumped out the window. Time the windows were up, they both jumped out the windows and went off and never came back to school.
They have nothing right to do.
Yeah, they wanted to call her. I think they were responsible. One where we came to school and somebody takes out and written Fat Fisher on the front door of the school.
How mean.
And they may have been responsible for that. They finally wanted to say it to her face. One just said something, Fat Fisher, and the other, Fat Fisher. They both got up, ran out, jumped, climbed out the windows and ran off.
You can still see it in your mind like
Yeah,
you're fishing like that.
yeah. And they both grew up to be just responsible family men. You know, my brother, he got a good job and married a well-to-do girl. Was the only girl in the only child in the family, Elmer, and
Betty Lou, right?
Betty Lou, yeah. And she hadn't came from a family with money,
Huh.
so he did great.
Yeah. He didn't do Fat Fisher.
Right, I don't think you could do that nowadays, but
That's funny.
go as far as the 8th grade, I believe.
Well, what was like, what was life like, I mean, what, besides school and home, I mean, just, what y'all do as kids?
Well, since my parents were so much older, they were like grandparents. And
Really?
yeah, they still made apple butter out in the big copper kettle out in the backyard with my older sister to come, and they make that apple butter. There was sauerkraut, and they make sauerkraut in big barrels like that.
Hmm.
They made would have apple cider. They have a big barrel of apple cider on the back porch. And then when it got what's called hard, then it was bottled. We had our own vinegar.
Did y'all have your own apple trees?
Yeah, we had a big apple orchard.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Huh. So y'all had apples, and what else did y'all grow out there?
Peaches, pears, plums, and all
Corn?
Oh, yeah, we had big gardens.
Yeah. Oh, but y'all had those fruits too.
Yeah.
Of course, that was during the Depression,
Yeah, a lot of the time.
you know, when you
Yeah,
were young.
Yeah, I had the older girls, the Depression affected them a lot more than I did.
Is that right?
They didn't have, they didn't get any school rings or any annuals or anything like that. It's just, in fact, Virginia graduated valedictorian. She graduated in 3 years when she came out from the city.
Right.
And she graduated in 3 years instead of 4, was still valedictorian. Bibbets was salutatorian.
Really?
And see, they didn't have any scholarships or anything for those girls.
Right.
And there weren't any jobs. A lot of times they'd go out and clean houses and do things like that, even though they were, very
That's
smart.
smart.
Yeah.
Huh. So what did y'all, did y'all have animals?
Yeah, we had Chef, the
What was
same
that?
dog. He was the dog that they brought there when I was about 2, and he died after I think I left for Miami. I'm not sure. He
Oh,
needed to be about 20 years old, I think.
Really?
Uh-huh.
What was he?
Yeah. He was what they called a shepherd. He was just we called him Chef, just like a small collie almost. And of course, we had cows, chickens, pigs, and horses. We had, ponies when I was small. Nobody rode them, so King and Pell.
Really?
Yeah, nobody rode them, so Daddy sold those.
But y'all rode horses?
No, I hated horses. I was scared to death of horses.
Did any of your brothers ride horses and stuff? Or?
No, nobody in that family cared for horses. I don't know why, yeah.
Huh.
We had a big horse called Dick, and he'd come running to the fence, scared daylights out of me. In fact, I never liked any farm animals. I never liked cows.
Really?
Yeah, one time Daddy had to take part of the fence out to go take a tractor through it. He just took part of the fence down. And us kids would have to take turns watching so the cows wouldn't get out. So it came my turn, and I just ran, and the cows went right through the fence. I was scared to death of cows.
You did a heck of a job on the farm. What was when y'all would sit down, I mean, it's a big house, right?
Yeah, there was 4 bedrooms. And my mother...
Two-story?
Yeah, 2-story, uh-huh.
With a basement?
Yes, because the big furnace was in the big coal furnace was in the basement. So it's all my mother's canned food, and then we had big bins. We kept cabbage, apples, and all those stuff over the winter.
Oh, bins down at the bottom.
Yeah, big bins. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we'd have to get down there once in a while in the middle of the winter. The kids would have to get and sort out the apples, take the rotten apples out.
Really?
Yeah.
That was quite a fun job.
No, it's just something we had to do.
Did y'all kill chickens and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Did kids do that?
Yeah, my brothers did that. They would
Y'all didn't have.
hold them, no. That was good having three older brothers, because the girls didn't do any farm work or anything. Because I was scared of cows, so I certainly wasn't gonna milk one. They would hold them up like this and hit them on the back of the head with a stick, and then their necks would stick out, and they just put their necks on a chopping block, and it stayed there all the time with the axe stuck in it, and chopped their heads off. They did that every Saturday. We had chicken every Sunday.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
You had just chicken?
Yeah, but chickens were expensive then. Not everybody, I mean, we were lucky to be in the country and have chickens.
Oh, is that
Chickens
right?
weren't something like they are nowadays, where
Really?
they're mass produced. Yeah, chicken was kind of something to have that was really
Really?
special. But people living in the country had them.
So that was like during World War II, really? I mean,
Yeah, right.
what did you, when you were a kid, did you get dolls and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, we had Daddy made a lot of things. We had stilts made out of wood. We had hoops. We'd run around. It was just a big metal hoop with a handle he welded on, and we'd run around pushing hoops. And
It was a hoop and you push it, it would
have you
roll?
seen pictures in his old storybooks? Yeah, we had those. We had 3 of them. Yeah, it was a long handle and had a loop on it, and that was welded on, and we'd push it, and that hoop would go. Yeah. And we always had big swings, and then up in the barn, on the floor of the barn, we'd have big teeter-totters, and it would be on a big sawhorse and long boards where you would go way up in the air. I mean, we loved those.
There's a couple of barns on that place, right?
Oh, a lot of barns. You had the main big barn, and then 3 small barns, 3 medium barns and 1 small one that he made into a dollhouse for us one time. Yeah.
That's funny.
And the one barn where the garage was, you could get underneath it. It was dirt under there, and we'd sit under there and play for hours. My brothers with trucks and tractors, and my little sister and I made mud pies one time, but we made them with real eggs. And Daddy found the mud pies with a dried yolk on top.
Did he come get you?
Yeah, he didn't. He only spanked me one time. He was rough on my older brothers. Sweetheart's fishing Elmer. He did, yeah. There was a strap hung up behind the kitchen stove on a nail with a kind of a handle like that, a leather strap. And those boys told to Mark.
He used that on them, huh?
Yeah, he would. But he spanked me one time. I was up in the barn, and one of the boys did something to me, and I cussed him, and I didn't know he was there. He picked me up and spanked me with his hand.
How old were you?
I don't know, 7 or 8 or something. But he never did. He never spanked us,
the girls
or anything. Yeah. He was strict with the older girls too, though.
Was he?
They couldn't go out in shorts with boys, and they had real.
Was it like that when you got to be that age, or?
No.
Oh, so you were lucky.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
You came along by then. He mellowed out a little.
Yeah, he mellowed, but he was very strict with them too. Like who they dated and when they came in and went out and all that stuff.
Huh. What was a typical Christmas like for y'all?
Well, Christmas Eve, all we had was candles in the windows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Christmas Eve, we'd get the candles out and put them in the windows. Daddy would come home from work, and he would just go get the Christmas tree. And it wasn't like in stores. He didn't take us with him. And if it was frozen, he would cut the tree and just bring it home. And if the weather was warm enough, he'd dig it out, and then we would have a live tree. He planted all those pine trees in front of our house.
Well, those were all Christmas trees?
Yeah, those were Christmas trees. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he put them in a big tub. But it wasn't like any kind of romantic thing. He'd come home from work and it'd be almost dark there when he'd get home at 3.
Right.
And he'd just take off and get the tree. And when we were little, Santa Claus decorated it.
So you just go to bed.
We would go to bed and we'd get up next morning, and so nothing was done before the day before Christmas.
Yeah.
They put those 2 candles out, and that's all the decorations we had.
Huh.
And then
When you got older, what did they change it? Did they start
well,
decorating?
then I started to decorate. Well, Easter was the same way. Easter Bunny did everything too. Dyed all the eggs and everything. I finally caught on when I got a cup out of the cupboard and had dye on the I was 7 or 8 years old.
So then y'all get up Christmas morning and go down
And the tree, and yeah, that's the first time we'd see the tree.
Really be decorated with
Yeah.
lights and stuff? Or?
Yeah, lights, yeah.
What kind of presents did you get?
Well, it's funny because we would get, my brothers got electric train one year,
Mhm.
but after Christmas, we pack it away and not bring it out till the next Christmas. And we had dolls, what we called our good dolls.
Uh-huh.
Well, after Christmas, they put them in the trunk, and we'd only get to have them out at Christmas time.
Oh, so they only play the electric train once a year?
Yeah. And you played and played and played, they loved it.
You play with that sucker.
And the same with those dolls. I mean, we loved them, we just played with them. We had other old dolls and paper dolls and everything, but these beautiful dolls and everything, I mean, they'd go back on the trunk, and sometimes in the summer we'd go up and get in and look at them, and we didn't play with them.
You sneak up and take a peek.
Yeah. And
But
the
you
same
wouldn't
way,
dare get them out.
no. And we had little farm, the boys had little farm implements. They were like the real thing. Daddy got them at his friend had a tractor, farm equipment store, and he got little models, I guess, from the company and gave to Daddy for the boys. And that was the same thing, they were put away. And then we were only allowed to play with them at Christmas time.
Well, after a few years, you have a pretty big collection of Christmas stuff you can play with, right?
Right. And then we get a few other things just to fill in. And then when my sisters and brothers got older and they married, well, they would exchange names with each other, but they always kept us kids at home. We didn't have to exchange names. So Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving, the whole family came together. It was a big thing. Christmas, they all stayed at their own houses with their families, and then come out Christmas evening.
All right.
Yeah. And so that was a big day, big time, because they would, they would all buy things for us, so we get a lot of gifts Christmas night.
This is more like when you're in high school and stuff, right?
Yeah, in junior high.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because, see, Bibbitt's already had kids, and Christmas morning we would open our presents, and there weren't a lot. Sometimes we just get one thing maybe.
Right.
And then we would eat breakfast and run up to Bibbitt's house the first thing. And of course she had 6 kids and it was wild. And we loved to go up there. Sally and I, and Bill. Yeah, we'd go up to Bibbitt's house.
Huh.
And then the tree only stayed up 1 week. That was it. They went up Christmas Eve. We'd go back to school. The day after New Year's, Mom took it down. That was the end of it. And what we did that week was called tree visiting. We'd go around and see everybody's tree because everybody did the same thing.
Oh, really? All your neighbors and friends?
Neighbors and friends and all my sisters and everything, yeah.
Huh. Huh. That's not
In
like
fact, in later years, Frances, she had to put her tree up early, but she wouldn't light it until Christmas morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Such a thing with us.
That sounds like a great childhood.
Yeah, it was.
What was your mother like?
She was very kind. You'd think being a 9th or 10, she'd be tired of us.
Yeah.
But she never was, I'd come home, if I come home from school, very rarely she wouldn't be there. She was always there because Daddy bought all the groceries, he handled all the money, he did everything. She belonged to one kind of women's club. Some of the women around there and she would be gone. And now I just feel empty. I just feel sick when I come home. She wouldn't be there because she was always there.
Really?
And then we'd get over it, get on the phone and start making crank calls.
Didn't take long to get over
Oh,
it.
my brothers and oh, Mom's not here. Oh, I feel bad. Wait, now let's get the phone and start party line. We get
What was she?
and she made all of our bread, and we always had homemade bread. And she when she made bread, she would make things we called doughs, and she'd take bread crust and twist it, and we'd have this hot twisted fried bread. She'd fry it,
Mm.
and we'd have that big plate of that for supper.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
What did she look like?
she was short. She
Really?
was like Frances.
And her name was Frances.
Yeah.
And people called her Frances.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Dark-headed.
Had dark hair, Short.
Right.
Didn't look like anything like me at all. I grew up past her when I was very young. I'd tease her and stand up, and tease her about
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
you zipped past her?
Oh, yes.
Huh.
How tall was she?
Oh, she was probably about 5'4", 5'5", or something like that.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Huh.
She was real short.
But your dad was tall.
Yeah, he's 6'2", which was tall for back then.
Huh. Tell me about your mom and what happened to her.
Well, she always had high blood pressure. And so she had, when I was a freshman in high school, when she started getting sick, she had 3 strokes at 3 different times, and she died when I was 19.
She had, during your high school years, she had stroke?
Yeah.
Did it incapacitate her?
Yes, each time she couldn't talk or anything. She just stayed at home. She stayed in the bedroom upstairs.
In Bivets and who? Okay,
Yeah, they just took care of her, huh?
Hmm. So after the first one, she was really, that was it? I mean, she was dead?
Yeah, she got, well, if they'd had modern medicine, she'd have probably, she'd have been able to live probably. Because she recovered. She got her speech back and everything. 2 times she did that.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
And the 3rd time was a bad one, and I was 19, and she didn't live for that one.
And you thought maybe she was depressive, or what were you?
Well, yeah, she did have time when she went real bad depression.
Is that right?
Yeah, huh?
And what happened there?
Well, she had to have shock treatments.
Is that right?
Uh-huh, yeah.
And how old were you then?
Well, I was in high school.
So you knew about it at the time, or?
Yeah, I knew about it, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must have been pretty hard on you during high school.
Yeah. It was. It wasn't, but, I don't look about, we were just all, the family was all there and everything,
Right.
so it wasn't as hard as it could be on other people. My sisters were all close by and everything, so.
You had a good support network.
Yeah, they all helped and everything, so.
Right.
And I don't know who did, I didn't do all the cooking and everything, I'm not sure. I guess they all just pitched in and
Yeah.
everything. She just was, it was 2 months from like Thanksgiving till December. She had her shock treatments, and then, she was okay then.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was during the period when she was having her strokes too.
Right, yeah.
Did she die in the years? Oh, you were out of high school already.
I was living away from home already. I was living in Newcastle, I had an apartment.
Oh, okay. So you went from Fat Fisher's class to high school. Where was your high school?
Union.
And that was in town?
Uh-huh. Yeah, we had to ride the bus.
No, okay, okay.
It was 7 miles.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, we had to pass the test, the 8th grade test.
Now, how many times did you take for you to pass it?
One time,
Oh.
yeah, I made a high score on it.
And what's the swallowing Nell story?
Well, because I'd follow my brothers, and Joe, especially, he would pretend he was dying, and he'd say I'm dying and everything, and for me to go tell Mom, and then when I'd go tell...
Oh, this is on the way home?
No, this was just in the summertime. I wanted to follow those boys all the time.
Oh.
And they didn't want me to, so he would start these real sad stories and say he was dying and everything, and for me to go get our mother. When I would go, they would just run off and leave me. So he was doing it one time. I told him, I said, stop doing that, or I'm going to swallow a nail. And he kept doing it, so I swallowed it. And the only thing I remember about it is him coming and telling my family, and I don't know who they came. I remember them carrying me across the yard. And I think they called the doctor, and he said, well, she'll just pass it.
How big was it?
Oh, I think it was just a small one.
So when he did it, was he just like mortified?
Yeah, well, of course he was. And one time, and I stuttered too.
Really?
And yeah, when I was younger. And when one time, Daddy was, see, we had a coal mine in the back of that farm.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes he would go back there and dig out coal. I mean, it went back in, and he had a car and everything. It was there, I think, when we moved in there. And when we needed coal sometimes, he'd go back there and mine coal.
A little
Just
rail
by
in
hand.
there?
Yeah, rails, a little coal car, and just dig it with an axe.
Huh.
And go back there and dig. And our dog, Shep, got a bone caught in his throat. And my mother sent me back to the coal mine to get Daddy to tell him. And I stuttered so bad he couldn't understand what I was saying.
You were so excited.
I was so excited. Yeah, that was another story they told him. He run home. He didn't know what he was going to find. And by the time he got home, the bone was out of the dog's throat.
And did some of your brothers serve in World War II?
Yeah, Elmer. And Joe went in a little late. He went in the Navy.
Oh, he did?
Uh-huh.
Neither one of them got injured?
No.
came back, I guess
Well,
that
see, Elmer was young, and he was what they was called a litter bearer. He'd have been really in the front. They were the ones who went out in front and got the
Mhm.
bodies and brought them back. Well, when he left to go overseas, he got pneumonia. Got real sick when he was in the army, and and so they just kept him back. He went only to England, and he was a cook. And so he went to cook school there and cook, so he'd have been, he would have had a chance of getting injured if
Sure.
if he'd have gone. And he was only like 18 or 19 years old.
Hmm. And Joe went, but he a little later.
Yeah, Joe was later. He joined up in the Navy. He was
Oh.
in the Navy for 4 years.
During the war, was he in the war?
I think it was probably after the war. He was in the Navy.
Excuse me, did y'all have neighbor, have people lost, friends or neighbors that lost sons in the war?
No, because see, Chin, my brother-in-law, he had, no, we didn't. We were lucky. He had two of his brothers, Stanley and Louis, that went in also. And they were all injured. You know, Chin with his arm was injured real bad. And Louis had his leg. I think in the end that finally caused his death. I think he had a real bad wounded leg. And Stanley was wounded too.
Really?
So Mrs. Satansky, she had those three boys in.
Mrs. Satansky.
Well, that was Chin's mother. His name was Ternosky, and when she came out there, she was married to Mr. Satansky, and so that was her name.
Oh, okay.
And
She'd
the
been married previously.
Yeah.
Huh. You don't know. A lot of skis around there.
Right, in that family. Yeah.
So what was high school like?
It was fun. It was just I think there was like 50 kids in my class.
Is that right, in your graduating class?
Uh-huh.
That was a big shock from going from the one-room schoolhouse, wasn't it, when you first went in there?
Yeah, they called us 9C. I always said that was country. And our homerooms were down in the basement. The ninth grade were down in the basement. But you know, the kids that came, I'm not sure about who had to take that 8th grade test, whether it was the country kids or what, but it seemed like the kids that came to the country were the smartest kids in that school.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you ever follow, I mean, was it weird going to a city school after living in the country?
No, I don't remember it being that.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah.
You enjoyed high school?
Yeah, yes.
What did you do, extracurricular activities or?
No, everybody was in the camera club, and we didn't do anything. Nobody had a camera. The high Y, that was some kind of.
What was that?
I mean, something having to do with the Y. We never did anything there either. And I don't know. I never did. I don't know. I wasn't much of a joiner.
Is that right?
I was more of a rebel. I didn't. After I got out of high school, somebody looked at my yearbook and they said, you know, you were one of the prettiest girls in your class, but you never were a queen of anything or anything. I said, I just never did go into that stuff. In fact, when, you know, we'd wear jeans on Friday, they would allow us to wear jeans on Fridays, and we'd roll the legs up with bobby socks and loafers. And my brother Joe had loaned me his corduroy shirts, ones for my friends also and things. And everybody stopped that. Not let us do that, you know. And I kind of led a thing that rebellion or revolt. Yeah. So I was never much of a joiner or.
Really?
Yeah. I think I've probably been a hippie in later years.
Oh my gosh.
Flower child.
Yeah, not that, but I just never did. I never wanted to do what anybody else did.
Right.
I never wanted to be a girly girl.
Why? Why do you think that was?
That was just me. I don't know why. I think we embraced those brothers. Maybe they.
I bet that's it, huh?
Yeah, when we were in that country school, you had to have boys and girls. We did everything. There were no boys, sports, or girls. We all were in it together.
Right.
I mean, we'd go ice skating, and they would play crack the whip. Well, one time I was at the end of that whip, and they threw us around, and I mean, I landed. My brothers were bigger, and those boys, and I mean, and so it was kind of in high school. I never did want to just do those girls things.
So you just had a tough.
Because in the country in the country school, we played hockey with a tin can. We'd hit that and throw snowball, have snowball fights, and the girls were right in there with the boys. So it's always kind of been that way. Even after Gil and I got married, the young wives were. I was never the same as they were, because they were just wanted to wait on their husbands and do these girly things, and I just never did, because I guess being brought up with those boys.
Yeah, exactly.
And just being on equal par and everything, so I never was like that.
How did you get along with Sally?
Well, we got along good together. We fought. She would pull my hair, and I hate to have my hair pulled. And she would scratch me also. She was little too, smaller than I was.
Right.
She had real small hands. I was real tall, skinny. And she would grow long fingernails, and she would scratch me. And she would pull my hair. When she did that, she knew she was in trouble then, because I have a real tender head. We would fight, and she'd pull my hair, and that was it. I mean, that started beating the daylights out of her. One time when we would get sick, my mother would make us stay in bed, and we had measles. And at that time, Sally and I were sharing a bed, and she made us stay in bed with the blinds pulled down.
All day?
Yeah, because they were afraid of your eyes. Something like if you had those red measles, it would affect your eyes. And
See, when they lied in there.
yeah, and I mean, by the time I got through, I had more scratch marks than I did measles. I was fighting in that bed again. Did you remember they put Matthew or Emily in the bed together day after day? I mean, those things, and you were quarantined, and they put a sign. The health department came out and put a sign on your door.
Really?
Yeah, so people wouldn't go in. It would say measles, mumps, chicken pox, or whatever you had. Yeah.
Huh.
You had to call and let them know, and they come out and quarantined your house.
That is crazy too.
Yeah, because see, they worry about those diseases they have bad side effects a lot of times. So German measles, they claimed that they would harm your eyes and things. And so yeah, we had to stay in that kind of dark room.
How long did y'all stay in bed together?
I don't know. I mean, it was like 10 days.
No way! 10
Yeah.
days?
In that dark room.
Yeah.
And all you heard was
God, that must have been torture.
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
Sally. That's funny. But how many years was she behind you? In
She
school?
was she was 2.5 years younger than I was, almost. Yeah.
She all went to
2.5
high school together.
Yeah, I was there. She was there 1 year with me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then 2 years in the second year, of course, she got pregnant when she was just a sophomore in high school, and so her and Leonard got married.
That was the end of her high school career?
That was the end of her high school career, right? Because they made you get out, and they made they wouldn't let the fathers go to school either. Not like they do now. You had to get out, they kicked you out of school.
Leonard ended up a millionaire.
Yeah, so she ended up a millionaire, so.
Yeah.
Sally?
Uh-huh,
Really?
yeah.
Leonard,
He started out with
Coal
a
miner.
truck. Well, he started out with a truck.
right.
He was ambitious. And see, he didn't get to graduate from high school either. But he would work. And and back then he started out buying his big truck. And the payments were like $1,000 a month. Who knows how much that would be nowadays? Some outrageous. And so he would work as many 20 hours a day, hauling things with that truck and everything. And that was kind of his start of his businesses and everything. And he wanted to make money, went on into the coal mining business and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was one of the youngest mothers at that time. It's not like now when they have a 10 or 11.
Yeah.
She was, I think, just 15, not
Yeah.
quite 16 when she had Wayne.
Yeah.
But again, that was a family. They just kind of all gathered around her. And my sisters helped her get a
How
wedding
old was
dress.
he?
He was
Dad?
about a year older.
So 15 and 16.
Yeah,
Oh, younger than-
yeah, he was
Wow.
driving. He was driving, I know. He taught me to drive, and they all said, we're not gonna hide it, you have to live around here, and they took them, and they got married and everything like that, and they started out in a little apartment, in a house. I remember going to visit her, and it worked out great. They had 3 more children.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
The story there in itself, isn't it?
Yes,
Huh. So, okay, so you graduated from high school
yeah. And I go to work at the telephone company.
in Newcastle.
Yeah, but I was only 17, so that summer, when I got out of high school, I made some money. A neighbor up the road, his wife had a baby, so he'd have to be at work at 7, so I'd get on the bicycle every morning and go up, and then women stayed in the hospital for 10 days or 2 weeks, and he had like 3 little girls at home. So I'd ride my bicycle in the morning, go up and I'd take care of his kids all day and feed them everything, go home and tea. For that I made about $10. And that gave me enough to buy like 3 dresses. So I started, when I finally was, in August when I was 18, then went to work, and I had 3 new dresses to start to work with. Because babysat.
Oh, so you graduated when, that May, when you were 17, you worked that summer?
I worked that summer, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But see, I always worked. I had a paper route, and I babysat. So I never, no one, they just didn't give you money. Daddy handled all the money, and so he just didn't give you any. I don't know, I just bought all my own clothes and things. I always did.
When you were in high school?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I just made enough money. The paper route was my older brother's, and so then I just took over. Girls didn't have paper routes, but I just took over anyway, because I was the next one in line.
Huh.
And,
And it was when you were living out in Edinburgh, right?
yeah,
Edinburgh.
yeah. That's when I was like in 7th and 8th grade. So I was making my own money then.
And when that paper route was right there, those houses weren't like close together.
No, I'd ride my bike a mile down, the last house was right at the bottom of Sky Hill.
Uh-huh.
Then ride back, and then take the road up the other way, past Bibbitz's,
Right.
and go all the way up to the, what was it, I forget, and so that was over a mile. And it was okay in the summertime, so that would be like 4 miles. It was okay in the summertime. In the wintertime, I had to walk it, because you couldn't ride your bike.
You did that year round?
Yeah, it was, I'm not sure I don't think we did it on Saturdays. It was just 5 days a week.
Oh, okay.
But I did that till I was a sophomore in high school.
You had to get up extra early before school.
No, we did it after school.
Oh, you did?
It was an evening.
Oh, okay, okay.
But in the wintertime, it would be dark when I did that.
That's pretty
But in the
good.
summertime, I could ride my bike, and I would just play around on the way, and dinner was at 5, and you better be there. And I can remember walking in the door, you know, we didn't have watches. A watch was something you got for graduation.
Right.
I mean, that was a very important thing to have. You didn't have a watch. And so I would, in my paper route, mess around with my friends and stuff, stop off at Bibbitz's, and I remember walking in the door after 5, and Mom just sitting there, and Daddy. I mean, the dinner was at 5, and you were there or else.
They weren't happy.
It was just, no, it would just be silence. And my mother would just be kind of nervous, you know, about it and things. She didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, what happened?
Well, usually nothing. But I would feel horrible. I didn't know what to do, you know.
So you got a job work, you got your bike and 3 dresses and worked at the phone company. Have all the little wires you said? to
Yeah, number please, thank you.
So how long did you work for the phone company?
Well, that's when I was 18, and I moved and lived in town, and Casey she had an apartment in an old house see, they didn't have apartment buildings. You just had rooms on all these big old 2-story houses. And we would just, sometimes I'd work till 10 o'clock at night, and we'd just walk home down this old part of town, down this street. And we never worried about anybody.
Oh, you and her worked together and lived together, huh?
Yeah. She already worked at the telephone company, so she,
Oh, that's right.
helped get me a job there.
She was a year ahead of you.
2 years. She was more Joe's age, maybe 3 years ahead of me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But we were always best friends. We just grew up together.
Huh.
So she had the apartment. And so I went to work. I worked there 2 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you were 20?
Till I was 20, huh?
Uh-huh. And then,
Then I left for Miami.
so what was the motivation for this?
Well, where I worked, Janet Flick was a good friend. She was a friend I met from in town. And her father was old too. Her mother died when she was 12. She had an older sister who was like 16, 17 years older than her. There were just the 2 girls. And so her father was already retired. He's an insurance man. And he retired, and he'd spend every winter down in Miami. And so that's why she knew about it. And so we just got bored up there. And in fact, we rode down with him in an old Woody, one of those old station wagons.
Right.
Yeah. And
Well, this was in 52?
uh-huh. And so we just were down with him. We didn't have a job or anything. I had $100. I saved up $100. It was like a fortune.
So when you left, did you tell your family, I'm moving away, I'm leaving for good, or?
Well, yeah,
Was
they
it
do. My
just-
sisters brought me gifts. I remember one sister brought me some navy blue silk pajamas, and yeah, they
And did you think it was
because they always say to me, well, you're different. They always knew that I would get up and do that.
Really?
Yeah. You know, I'd say something about something, and they said, oh, well, they always say, well, Althea, you're just different, you know. They never could figure out, so they always knew that I would do something like that probably.
Huh.
Because I always talked about it, getting willing to do something.
Oh, so you wanted to leave?
Yeah, right.
There you went.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it was him, it was her father, and another retired insurance man. What a boring trip, I remember forgetting. Those old guys, that old wooden station wagon.
Right.
We thought they were old geezers. I don't know how old they were. Both retired insurance men. And I don't know how many miles you could go in a day. I mean, that's 1,500 miles down there.
That's a long haul.
Yeah. And we'd stop at these motor courts. They didn't have motels.
Right.
And, you know, they'd be shaped like little teepees, or as you go down on into Florida and stuff. And we'd stay in those places. And then she also had a girl that she knew from Newcastle that was living down there.
Oh, really?
And she already had an apartment, so we just moved in with her. But what we found out when we moved in was a surprise for that time. Her boyfriend had been living with her. And we got in, and one day we weren't working, we were getting into dirty clothes, and his underwear and everything was in the dirty clothes. And see, that was unheard of then.
Sure.
That was a scandal. We didn't know what to do, what we got into down there. Because she was living with her boyfriend at the time. And so she finally moved out and left us the apartment.
Really?
Yeah. And so we learned how to get around with buses.
Huh.
We didn't have a car. She had a car, so when she moved, the car went. And so we just did everything on buses. We learned how, and we were just young, 20 and young and good looking, and the bus drivers all flirted with us and talked to us and everything. And so I put an application out at the airport for the airlines, and then her and I were together downtown, and she said, well, let's go by and see the telephone company. And they hired us both of us on the spot.
Oh, because y'all had experience already?
Yeah, we had experience.
Huh.
And so we did everything with buses. And it was just, and that was a wonderful time too. I loved it down there. We were just 20 years old. We had our own apartment.
And it's like in a different world for you,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah, I loved, once we hit Florida and all those royal palm trees, you know, Newcastle was kind of an old industrial city, tin mill and all that stuff. And Florida was just like heaven to me. It was all clean. I just loved the city. I loved the warm weather and the golf. We would go to the beach and everything. Yeah, it was like heaven to me.
No winters, really?
Yeah.
No
It was
snow.
and Miami was a wonderful city back then. I mean, it was great. And it's not like now, we didn't have any fear. We just went out at night. It was just really a carefree time. It was a wonderful time.
So y'all would go and
We just
work
partied
together and then come back and go out and look
We
for
finally
guys?
we had finally added another roommate, Joanne Lynn. She was from Detroit, and her mother worked with. She worked for the Telegraph. What is it?
Miami Herald?
No, where you send money.
Oh, yeah, Western Union.
Western Union.
Right.
And see, her mother is a real unusual woman too. She's unusual, and she came down and was spending the winter. She just transferred with Western Union, left her husband up in Detroit, because he was kind of a deadbeat kind of guy, just didn't want to do anything.
Right.
And Joanne came to live with us, and she was a character too.
Huh.
She came to work with us, and so she came to live with us. And she looked just like me. People thought we were twins, except she was short and I was tall.
Really?
Had both brown hair and brown eyes, and wore her hair short and everything.
Huh.
Yeah. And so we got a job. We went to work. We would just ride the bus, working from home.
Went to Miami Beach for the.
And we did do that. We went to Miami Beach, and everything closed at 5 o'clock. And we finally got a job where we were working 12 to 8. We'd come home at 8, get dressed, shower and dress and everything, and go out and stay out till everything closed at 5 the next morning.
Oh, 5 in the morning?
Right. We'd come home. Come home, and the apartment was all just young people and everything. There were some Marine officers lived there and everything. And one older woman, I thought she was old, she was probably about your age. She complained because we took showers at 4 or 5 in the morning, because she'd hear the water running. She was down below us. Yeah, we went. Everybody said that I got married to get some sleep.
Y'all were partying hard.
Yeah, we did, and we'd have all kind of parties at our apartment. It was just fun things. We never did
dances and stuff.
Yeah. We didn't do any bad things. We just did fun things.
Yeah, exactly. Huh.
And there was all kind of guys.
Really?
Yeah. At one time, Janet was going with a guy, he was with the Navy, he was a diver for the Navy.
Huh.
I was going with a guy that played the piano for the Miami Symphony. And, and at one time I dated a guy that was, Mac, he was running a club over on the beach. And I think he just had me because I was tall and young and just kind of showed me off. He was an older guy.
Really?
Yeah. And we do that and
Probably tied into the mob.
probably. But yeah, we never got sexually involved with anything. It was a different time back then.
Right.
I mean, you weren't involved like you are now. We didn't even believe in French kissing or anything. I mean, you didn't get those guys. That's why I think now that he probably just because I was young and tall and everything, because we didn't do anything like that. So
Sure.
I'm sure they had women that did. So
Yeah.
they showed the guys like that.
Huh.
So
That's fun.
yeah.
So then, how'd you meet your future husband?
And nobody could believe I was marrying him.
Wow.
I don't know why. They just didn't think he was the type. They just thought that I was, I don't know, or that I was even getting married.
Really?
They were all shocked.
How long had you lived there?
Because people, you know, I had a chance to model. People asked me to model.
Really?
Yeah,
Because you were tall?
yeah. And then when
You never did that?
no, I didn't want to do it. I
Yeah.
couldn't stand to smile when I had to and all that stuff.
Yeah. You hate cameras?
Yeah. And so yeah, we had just a super good time. That was
Really?
great. Yeah, we'd we'd have parties at our apartment, just fun parties and play games, and we'd go to the beach on Sundays and then come home with different guys. They were all just friends.
Right, sure.
And we would listen to those radio shows on Sunday night. They'd be Inner Sanctum and all those things. And the guys would buy, they had a lot of delicatessens down there, and they would buy things and we'd come home and eat, and they would just lay around and listen to those radio shows and things.
Talk about a carefree lifestyle,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. And some of the guys were even Marines, you know. The mothers of the girls that lived down there wouldn't let their daughters date them.
Really?
Right. A lot of girls that I worked with, they were right from there and had their parents with them. You know, when your father talks about these girls, they were usually girls that were down there just working stuff, because the girls that had their parents down there with them would never let them date those Marines.
Only girls like you, right?
Yeah, right. We didn't have anybody.
No parents around.
Right.
So how did y'all meet?
Well, I just came home from a date one night, and I knew Dick Carter I had dated Carter, we called him. How I met him is one night, we were coming out of work, and we'd come out of work and light up cigarettes first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we would walk out laughing, and he was sitting out there waiting for somebody else. He saw me, and him and his friends followed our bus home to find out where we lived. He wanted to meet me. And he was from Pennsylvania also.
Oh, really? This Dick Carter guy?
Yeah. And he parked out in the parking lot, and they hollered up at us and everything. We talked to him, and I started dating him. But we just became friends. We such good friends. It wasn't like a boyfriend and girlfriend.
Right.
And so he was just over there, and I was dating someone else, and he brought Gil over.
Was he a Marine?
He was a Marine, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I just came home. I was out with somebody else, and I just kind of walked through and went on and went to bed. And I think your father called me later or something.
Really? So y'all started going out.
Uh-huh.
It never broke up.
Right.
Yeah. This is the one that stuck, huh?
Yeah,
Oh. So you got married 2 months later?
right. Yeah, I don't know.
Where were you when he proposed? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but he says that I asked him, and he told me he would even sell a sports car if I was marrying him.
Really?
Yeah. And he did, see, he tells about, he did have to sell it because when I became pregnant, I didn't like riding around anymore, because in the mornings, with rain, the seats would be wet.
Oh, it's convertible.
Yeah, it was a convertible.
You didn't have a top?
Well, it had a rag top, what they call,
Oh, right.
it'd be wet inside everything. And so on that trip over here to Texas, he sold that MG and we bought a a green Dodge sedan and drove it back. I was 5 months pregnant. So that was all. And to have that MG today would be something. See, when we were first married, we belonged to the Miami Sports Car Club.
Really?
Yeah, we'd go on these things called gymkhanas, and I'd be his co-pilot, and we'd get instructions and do all this, do all this stuff, and then see who could get it done first. Come back. And so yeah,
Like a scavenger hunt or something.
yeah, like that. Only you would drive certain places and you'd have
Right.
to check in everything, and who would get back first? Yeah, that was fun.
Huh. That was MG.
Uh-huh.
Huh.
And then I got pregnant. They only allowed you back then to work, I think, 4 or 5 months.
Really?
Yeah, you couldn't work anymore.
So how did you tell your family? Did you just call on the phone and tell them you get married?
I think I told them I already was married. They didn't know ahead of time.
Oh, you didn't call them until after you already got
Neither
married?
one of us did.
Huh. They just didn't get around to doing it, or?
I don't know. I guess we didn't think it was their business. I don't know what. We just didn't tell them. We never did anything quite normal. Would you
Yeah.
know that by now?
Yeah, that's right. What did when was the first time y'all made it back to Pennsylvania for Dad to meet your family?
When Kimmy was 7 months old.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Y'all drove up there?
We drove up there, and she'd always been just the best baby. Kimmy was just a really good baby and everything, and we stopped at Paris, Kentucky, and went into a motel room, and and she was out of her own bed and everything. She cried all out. We had to get out in the car and drive around and get her back to go back to sleep.
Oh, my God.
And then we went on.
I bet that was frustrating.
Yeah.
So then, y'all moved to Texas?
Yeah, I hated Texas at first.
You did?
Sacrilege.
I hated to leave Miami.
Why'd y'all leave? Did you want to stay down there?
I wanted to. He wouldn't.
You want to go back
Yeah,
to the family?
he wanted me to come over to Texas and stay with his family and have Kimmy so she could be born in Texas. He didn't want a child born out of Texas.
Really?
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Where was she born? Miami?
She was born in Miami Beach.
Yeah.
He said a Jewish hospital. It was a Catholic hospital. It was called St. Francis. And they just took the Marine wives. Because the Marine base didn't have its own hospital.
Right.
And we did have a Navy corpsman take care of us.
Really?
And he would say at first, you can't go, you have to go to a regular doctor. You can't. They say those Navy corpsmen do all kinds of things. They do this, and they're always watching you and all that stuff. It was free. I said, it didn't make any difference to me.
Huh.
And so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I went out to the base to the doctors. But I didn't go until I was. When I was first pregnant, he was sent up to North Carolina, and I knew I was pregnant, but I just went with him without seeing a doctor. It wasn't like it is nowadays.
Johnny went to New Bern?
Yeah, we lived in New Bern. Well, I was pregnant up there, and I never had been to a doctor.
Huh.
And I came back, and I guess I was about 4 months pregnant before I went to a doctor. I went to the base to the doctor.
Huh. So much for prenatal care.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just lived in an apartment, an old house. See, just last year we went back there to visit, and the houses, they're just redoing the neighborhood, and all the old houses are office, lawyers and everything. And the street where we lived, dead end, and the river was there. Now there's a bridge over, and it's all modernized. But we got to see the house. We recognized the back porch of it in our downstairs apartment.
Huh.
Yeah, we walked into, the house next to us is now lawyers' offices, and so we just went. And of course, the street was just a little city street with big trees and everything. Now it's a 4-lane thoroughfare.
Well, y'all didn't live there very long, though, right?
No, we were just up there a couple of months, and I came back down. I guess I was probably about 5 months pregnant. I finally went to the doctor.
So you had Kimmy with
But
no
I was driving
problems.
back and forth in an MG during all this.
So you had no problems with the pregnancy, though, huh?
No.
Oh, then as soon as you got back, you drove to Texas.
Yeah, we drove to Texas. Yeah.
God, y'all did a lot of driving.
And a doctor, he had, and so I finally went to the doctor, and then I left, and I asked him, I said, well, can I go to Texas? And that was July the 4th, and she was born in November.
Right.
And he said, now I'd be very careful. So I didn't tell him I was going in an MG convertible.
With the top down.
With the stuff, yeah. stop off and everything like that, but we just went and came back.
What did you, when the first time you went over there and met the Chisholm family, what did you think?
Well, we stopped at, Bill's mother lived at Palacios. His stepfather Bush he worked on a barge.
Oh,
And
okay.
they were stationed barge. And she was there, and she was nice, but the next morning we were picking her up and we were going down to Corpus to visit the rest of the family. We go out the next morning to get in the car, and she climbs in the front seat and sits next to him. And that could have been the beginning of a bad relationship. I just decided to ignore her. And her and I always got along. I love her dearly. I still do miss her. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. She always took up for me and was always.
Really? Did she?
Yes. Yeah. I know you kids didn't like her very well, but.
She was kind of independent too, though, right?
Right. But her, yeah.
Well, she wasn't much
she always thought I was a good mother and everything, and she thought I was a good wife. And
she wasn't much of a kid person.
No, she didn't care for kids, no. She liked her own too, but she wasn't.
She didn't care for her grandkids, is what I'm saying. Not didn't
Well,
love them,
no,
but wasn't
she
very...
kind of, Kimmy was the first one, so she kind of made a fuss over Kimmy, but after that she never did do much. She made Kimmy some clothes and took her up there to stay and everything, but she never messed around with you kids.
And your father was kind of the same way.
No, he loved kids.
He always told us Kimmy was his favorite.
Well, I know, but he was a joke, big, and he joked all the time and everything. He just teased people.
Yeah, he was very nice to us. He took us fishing and...
Yeah. Because when he would take Sally to get shoes, he would take Johnny with him too. He would always buy, because Johnny was his oldest son.
Right.
And he would pick him up. And on his days off, when I was in high school, he'd go around to all my sisters and brothers and pick up all their little kids that weren't in school yet and bring them out to the house. And I hated it because they just mess up the house and everything. And Mom would cook, she would fix homemade noodles. She made beef and noodles, not chicken and noodles.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she'd fix noodles, and we'd have those, and then the parents would come get them after supper in the evening.
Huh.
Yeah.
He would run around the house?
Yeah, he loved his grandchildren.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to see them much of it.
Yeah. But so then we went down to Corpus, and I got to meet the rest of them. We even drove all the way over to San Antonio, and his uncle was living in that house on Mayfield where he was raised, so we spent the night there.
Really?
And I
Uncle
got
who?
Huh?
Uncle?
It was Bud, yeah.
Huh.
Vernon and Curtis, I think, were there, or Vernon and somebody.
Oh, okay.
But he had that house for a while. So they all liked me. And they thought I was, and then when I drove, when Kimmy was a month old, we drove back to Texas from Miami, and they thought they couldn't believe it. A young mother would drive all across the country. They didn't have disposable diapers or anything then.
So this was like only 5 months later, 6 months later.
From who? Yeah, sure, wasn't much later, yeah. And we moved out there, and we moved into where North Beach is at Corpus?
Mm-hmm.
We moved into a little one-room tourist thing then. But that's all, we were waiting for the Marine Corps was sending our stuff.
Oh, on the other side of the causeway.
Yeah, they were just like little one-room tourist parks, but some people rented them and lived in them.
Huh. And
so we lived there with Kimmy. And it had a gas furnace in it, a gas refrigerator and everything. And I think Gil started working for his father right away, and one more, and Gil and his mother lived there.
With y'all?
No, she lived in another little one.
Huh.
She lived there by herself. I don't know whether Bush was gone or she wasn't married then. I'm not sure what was happening. I think she was already divorced from Bush. And she came in one morning. Usually the baby, Kimmy, would wake up. And this morning, neither one of us woke up, and she came in, and the little apartment was full of gas.
Really?
Yeah. And she got us up and got us out of there.
Huh.
And here the baby would, she wasn't sleeping all night. She'd be up 5 in the morning. That morning, we both slept on through, and for some reason, Grandma came there and knocked on the door and woke up. I had a headache and felt groggy and everything, and she got us out of there, and that little gas refrigerator was putting off fumes and everything, yeah.
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 So y'all got a place to live over on the main other side of the bridge, right?
Yeah, we lived in another little apartment, and then we moved in behind the shop, upstairs in the garage apartment.
Uh-huh.
And a couple there was Dawn and Carolyn Hausenbell, and we still talk to each other. We still write letters when they're Christmas time.
Really?
Yeah, he was in the Navy out there. And then went from there, and then I got pregnant with you, and it was just a one bedroom place. So then we rented a house that had 2 bedrooms, and then we lived there until we left for Austin.
So you're still hating Texas at this time?
Oh, it's growing on me.
No, I mean back at that point,
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
you'd rather been in Miami,
yeah.
not
It
Pennsylvania.
was hard to give up that life. Get married and have a baby that can,
Yeah, that was
have a baby in 10.5 months. My whole life had changed.
Yeah.
It had just been him and I, and we got along so good together. And because he wanted me to go every place he went, and we fished together and did all stuff, and then baby came and everything changed.
Yeah, that's your responsibility.
Yeah. We were used to sleeping late Saturday morning, and next at 5 o'clock that baby was up. And she had colic. She'd cry every day about the same time at 5 o'clock, and we couldn't get her to stop that colic they have when they cry at the same time every day.
I didn't know that she had that.
Yeah. And so it was just, it changed. I was unhappy for a while, I think.
And then me, I wasn't like that.
No, you were a sweet little baby. He really was. Kimmy would take her afternoon nap, and he would just be waking up. He would sleep and have a morning nap. And I'd get him up. He was just fat and drooly and big fat chin and thing. And I'd set him up and play with him and dress him up. He had different clothes. People bought him gifts and thing. And he was, no, you were a sweet baby.
Mm-hmm.
I had the flu, and I would just take him, and I was so sick, and I had no one to take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
Kimmy just kind of took care of herself. You were still, and I'd just take and feed you something and stick you in a playpen out, that was in Austin, out in the side porch, and you would just stay out there and play, and I'd had high fever and sick and be in bed, and then I just get at lunchtime and feed you something and stick you back out, just stick you in bed. You just kind of went along with it, and you would eat anything. That people couldn't believe it. You would just, you would eat beets, baby food and everything.
You want to eat beets now?
No. You were just sweet. And it was good because then Allison came along and she fought everything we did. But you and Kimmy were both very easygoing. And especially you. No, I never, you were a very, very sweet baby.
What happened?
Yeah. So you moved to Austin, and of course, Daddy's working going to school, and you didn't work. I mean, you were always taking care of kids.
Yeah.
Of course, you had them.
Every 2 years.
Yeah, really.
And then, we lived on Larry Lane, and then we had Allison. And then we had to get a bigger place, so we moved out in the country.
Right,
Manchac Road, and that's when you and Kimmy slept out in the building garage, on the other side of the house from us. And then Allison had the bedroom back, and then we had a bedroom. And then we moved from there to Houston.
So what was it like having 4 kids, 0, 2, 4, and 6, no air conditioning, no microwaves,
A lot of the time I didn't have a dryer until Robert was out of diapers, so I never had a dryer for the diapers.
Right, no dryer.
Just hang them out in the line. Yeah.
It was the summer in
Yeah.
Texas.
Well, when I was pregnant with Robert, before he was born, I was losing weight because there was a heat spell back there. It was like 102 and 103 every day. And the doctor said, well, the baby's okay, so you're losing the weight.
Really?
So instead of
Really?
Because it was so hot.
No air conditioning.
No air conditioner. And your father worked at Trans Texas, and we couldn't afford it. And I starched and ironed all those uniforms, shirts.
Really?
I couldn't wait for summer to come even though it was hot because they were short sleeve, because in the wintertime they were long sleeves, that heavy twill cotton shirts that said Trans Texas, and heavy blue pants. And they all had to be starched and ironed.
Huh.
In fact, we starched and ironed all the clothes.
Really?
Yeah.
People have been doing that for years, but I mean, even in the 1800 people did that, right?
Yeah.
Starts in nowadays.
Yeah. In fact, before Allison was born, I was really able to keep up. Before she was born, I remember in Austin, of course, we didn't have air conditioning then.
Right.
And I had all my ironing done and everything. When I went to the hospital to have her, and after I had her, I never caught up again. Because which 3 was just,
Too much.
I was always fighting to keep up. But then I was ahead of it. It's just 2. Yeah.
That's right.
And your father called and always kept you was always perfectionist. He'd come home and say you look like little Yankee kids, because I didn't like pants that hung down at the waist with your stomachs hanging out and everything. So Kimmy and you both wore bib things. And I'd button your necks up and everything. And he said, those kids look like little Yankee kids.
That's right.
And so then, that's it. Then we came to Houston and had our house on Basin Street. We lived in a rent house on Hines. You remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Then we bought our house on Basin Street.
Right. And you started working, was Tellison your first job?
Uh-huh.
And that was after we moved to Friendswood.
Yeah, we
right?
were friends. We lived there a year in Farmland work.
And what did you do down there?
I worked for the safety engineer.
So that's really the first job you had since you were a telephone operator in
Yeah.
Miami.
But see, it was a boom time just like it was now. And I mean, I got a job just like that,
Really?
even though I hadn't worked for 20-some years. I had a job at another place. They were going to hire me, but I didn't have quite enough insurance. They had something to do with insurance or anything. Tellison was the second one I went to, and they hired me right on the spot.
That's a big construction company.
Big,
right?
yeah, uh-huh.
Worldwide? Then they built the Astrodome?
I think they were a contractor on the Astrodome.
Mhm.
No, they weren't. They worked up. They had their petrochemical division built refineries in Oklahoma and did a lot of stuff over Louisiana, but that's, I think, as far as they went
Really?
in. Yeah.
How long did you work for them?
Just long enough to get my vacation. And then I started at General Homes. I didn't like it because I was driving almost
Oh, that's
all the
right.
way downtown.
Because you were dropping me off at the tire place.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty high pressure job though, right?
Yeah, it was a high pressure job because he was a nut, my boss. You talk about, he would write these checks. I mean, he was certifiable. He was a nut. And he would write these checks, and it would take him a half hour to sign his name. He would have me type the checks, and you were never allowed to make a mistake. I had to type accident reports, and we had carbon copies, and I mean, it would I had to make 4 copies, and I could not make a mistake. It was detailed.
How could you do it?
Well, I did it.
If you made a mistake, you start ripping
I would
that
start
stuff?
over again, yeah. And if you didn't have those paper in between, carbon paper, if it wasn't exactly right, the ones on the last report would be kind of off of the line because, as they would go through.
Right.
Yeah.
And
he would have me type the checks. And when I would type the name to who it was to, I had to have the exact amount of spaces on each side. So the name was right in the middle. His name is Fred James.
Psycho.
He was, yeah. And when I went to work there, when I was walking, they would take me around to meet other people. And one guy in accounting said, I'd give you about 2 days. Because people would come in and the girls would all cry. He'd have them crying.
He said, I'll give you 2 days?
Yeah.
How long?
I never did cry. I just tell him what was what, more or less. And
How long did it last?
well, I lasted for 14 months. I took my year vacation and lasted. And then when I got ready to leave, of course, everybody else wanted me, the guys in engineering.
Sure.
Because I'd lasted that long with him.
I figured you were a super secretary.
Yeah. But then I just quit and went part-time at General Homes. Went to
Right.
employment agency, and she said, well, somebody needs part-time, so I went there, and then they hired me on full-time.
That's back when they were just starting in a house trailer.
Uh-huh.
Was that their first development?
Yeah, Blackhawk.
Right.
Blackhawk,
And that ended up over by the Astrodome and...
yeah. And then in our own office at the Southwest Freeway out by Texas Instruments.
Right.
And then we moved started moving back, and see, I would go down to Alvin and take Highway 6 out, and then come back in 59.
Huh.
And then they moved in closer to town, that's when I finally had enough, I quit.
Well, how long did you work for them?
About 4 years.
Really? What was your title when you quit?
Uh, Executive coordinator.
Really?
For Jeff Payson, yeah.
Oh.
It was that was a great job. It was always changing because I started in when they were just nothing. And I remember when they had their first $1 million a month.
Right.
Their closings, $1 million closings. And the time I left, they had I got to go out on their company boat, that big, they called the General,
Right.
big deep sea fishing boat. They had a airplane, two-engine airplane and everything.
Huh.
They were the top of the world there when I
That's
was.
like being on a rising rocket there.
It was, yeah.
They crashed not long after that, though, right? Maybe a few years. But
Well, yeah, it was quite a few years. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to them then. Then we moved in. They moved on into Southwest Freeway, and it was just a real fancy office. We had to ride up a glass elevator every day. It was in a big office building and everything. But I did that for about a week. It was just too far. I was already driving 76 miles a day, and added about like 6 or 8 more miles a day.
right.
And I just made a decision. I thought for a while maybe I'd look for a car. I thought maybe I'll just move over here. Well, you kids were all gone, and
You were? What year was that?
well, Robert, you were gone. Robert was maybe gone. Yeah, well, he was in high school, but I just made a decision to stick it out and stay at home. So I quit the job and stayed at home and went to work part-time for Marvin Allen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there on the...
Yeah, so I keep making my car payment and I sent Robert all his, his money at school.
Right.
Yeah. And I bought that Toyota. In fact, when I sold it, when I gave it to Chloe, I cleaned out the glove compartment and there was envelopes where I typed with his name and everything over at San Marcos.
Really?
I'd have them all typed out, have them stamped every month, I'd send them a check
Yeah.
over there, I'd go to the glove compartment. And none of us, that's the last thing, nobody talked about Robert. Of course, he died in 1980.
Right.
So, that was a sad time.
Yeah, that was a real sad time.
Yeah.
That's almost 20 years now.
Uh-huh. It doesn't seem that long to me at
No.
all. I can't believe that 18 years went by so fast.
Yeah. Yeah. He was born in Austin, in Manchester Road, right?
Uh-huh, yeah. And we moved out there before he was born because we didn't have room. And that's why we left our house on Mary Lane.
Right.
Because in Larry Lane, we had all 3 of you kids in one room. Remember you and Kimmy? We had twin beds on one side, and Allison in the crib in the other of this room. But it was great because y'all just kind of entertained each other.
Yeah.
And Kimmy had the top bunk, and she kept all her things that she loved the most up on her bunk, and she wouldn't let you up there.
Smart.
Yeah. And so you kids didn't seem to mind.
Right.
And put you all to bed real early at night. People used to laugh. I mean, your father's working 2 to 10, so I just was there with you. And I'd get you all bathed, and I'd rub you with codeine in the wintertime. I don't know why I did that. Rub your chest and put you all heavy pajamas, read your books, and get you to have you in bed about 7 o'clock. In the summertime, it'd still be, stick that baby in there. Allison would be in the crib, and I think you enjoyed it.
Yeah. I don't remember. I was too young. I don't remember.
Yeah, but you kids didn't mind being in there together.
Yeah.
And the baby'd wake up and she'd look over and there was her older brother and sister right in the room with her.
Yeah. I don't think
So
that's bad at all.
she wasn't scared.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
worked out great.
I
Yeah.
think it matters till they get older and want
Yeah,
their
right.
space.
Right, yeah. It was bad, so then we moved out Manchester Road to make room for,
I remember when Robert was born. I don't know what was going on, but Daddy took us into the parking lot and left us in the car for some
in
reason.
the back of the station wagon.
Yeah. And
Well,
he
yeah,
had-
see, I started into labor in the middle of the night, so we didn't have any place to take you, so he took and he parked the station wagon where he'd take me into the emergency room, and he just left you kids out in the car and took me in there,
Yeah.
and he would go out and check you.
Yeah. Well, I remember that. I stayed
And
in
he
the
would,
car.
yeah. Before we went, we made a bed for you in the back. I fixed blankets back there and pillows and everything in the back of the station wagon. We pulled you, I guess I guess, could you pull the seat down? I guess
I
you
don't
could.
remember it that well.
Yeah.
I do remember the three
I'm
of us.
surprised he didn't tell that story because he tells everybody that story.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, about leaving you. You couldn't do that nowadays.
No, oh heavens no.
But
I'd be
yeah,
thrown in jail.
yeah, 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 and he'd go out every 5 minutes to check, and they'd be sleeping in the station wagon. And he'd come out in the morning and told you that you had a baby brother.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you know. And then he would bring you by, where you could park and he would bring you by the hospital, and I would hold the baby up in the window. I'd have the baby in and hold the baby up so you kids could see it. And what it did, yeah.
Huh. That was good, man. Okay, well, did you have any other stories you want to tell, or anything
No,
you think of?
I'll talk down, I think.
Yeah?
Okay.
That wasn't so bad.
No.
Well,
Under duress?